Yeah, give thanks and praises to the Most High. This is a brief description of how above average hair care and beauty supply all began. So, we're starting off with this building because I was working at Western Road and Finch in Toronto, and I cut an individual who lived in London, Ontario, and I cut him like a couple of times. And he gave me his number, and he told me there's no good barbers up in London. So I took the number from him, and I came and checked out this spot, because this exact spot is the spot that he told me his friend already had, like a CD store there, and then his other friend had like a restaurant there. So I was planning to put my barbershop in here. But then when I went and signed the lease and everything with the man here and everything, he called me back like a week later and told me he has bad news for me, that he's selling this building, 183 King Street in London, Ontario. But he said the good news is you could come for your deposit. So I came for my deposit and got it back. So after I got the deposit back, of course, I didn't want to bring back the money to Toronto and spend it off. So the plan was to try to look for another place in London and keep, the momentum going, which is I want to start my own barber shop, right? So what I did was I got the deposit back from the man, as I said, and then I said I'm gonna scope out London and see if I could find any other places. So I remember I walked in this direction after I took the money from him, which is towards Richmond, right? So I walked towards Richmond, searching for another place, crossed over Richmond Street, and then I'm walking towards the market, right? And at that time, it was just the market. Like the John Labatt Center, for example, was not even built at that time, because this was 2000 of like May, roughly, or 2000 of April, because they gave me, he was going to give me 1 month free. So it was April or May, around there. So I continued to walk in the opposite direction on King Street all the way to Talbot. And then I made a right on Talbot, I remember. Walked up, because I actually borrowed my friend her car. She's a lifesaver. She's actually somebody who I met through my brother, Tracy McCann, bless her soul. Tracy lent me her car knowing that my license was presently suspended at the time, and I was driving her car all the way out of town to London, Ontario from Toronto. But she knew that this young man was determined and wanted to open his own business. She knew that I had a history of being in the business already, so, to her it even fit my description as well too. So I reached to Dundas and Talbot. And then when I was walking, this was the first commercial unit that I seen. At the time, it was empty, and it had like a Ford lease sign in it. So I remember I used my cell phone. I called the number. And then when I called the number, it led me to another office. And the office was just right around the corner at King and Talbot. So I was happy that it was just right around the corner. But when I was talking to them on the phone, and I explained to them, how much I had, and, what I could afford to spend, he told me the unit that I was actually looking at on Dundas Street was way more than my budget. But he said, I remember he said it so pleasantly. He was like, never mind, I have some other units that kind of fit your price range, but it's a little further east, down on Dundas Street, past the police station. So I came up here now to King and Talbot, and this is Klein Realty. I used to visit this office regular, for the first like almost 8 years I was in my unit on Dundas Street, I always came downtown and paid my rent right in that spot right there. So, on the day, the man actually gave me the key the same day. I gave him what I had. He gave me the key for this unit right here that I turned into my first location, which was 760 Dundas Street, London, Ontario. And 5W4M5. I remember it so frequently because I was in this unit for 12 years straight. Yes, to my surprise and to my favor, to my blessings, you plan to do your business one place and then it turns out that you end up having to do it somewhere else. But I was so glad when I got this place right here. And, the whole blessing about this place was that after I moved in, I found out that this was the only black, grocery store in London, Ontario and surrounding areas for like how many years? Although the unit was vacant for at least a good, yeah, I was told by a lot of people that the unit was empty for like at least 8 years before I moved in there. But, it was known as the main Caribbean and, African type of grocery store. So a lot of black people generally already visited this unit. So when I moved there and converted it into a barbershop, it just worked to my favor. And, I always remembered that and I always thank God for that because I knew that that was a straight blessing. I know that God put me in this unit for a reason. And I was in this unit for 12 years straight, successfully, before I moved from this location. A lot of memories. I lived upstairs in this unit. That's why I'm showing the up one. I lived right above the shop and I lived on the very top floor as well. Throughout the years when I was, looking for places to live and stuff like that. This was a coffee shop next door and, that was kind of vacant, but 760 Dundas was my main address for, how many years straight, 12 years straight, nonstop. This was a sidewalk that every winter I used to have to shuffle so much. I just, was saying to some customers the other day, we don't even get snow like we used to get. When I used to come to London, we used to get, like, when I first moved to London, it was crazy snow. But yeah, as we move now, I'm showing you the rest of the building. This is a building that had, I think, 13 units above it and then 2 units around the back, So when I lived in this building, I had 2 addresses, 2 separate addresses. My home address was, English Street, which is here. And then my business address was right around the corner. Right, the first year that I made it through the first year successfully, I kept a nice little, appreciation barbecue in the parking lot at the back of this building here. The parking lot was a very good sized parking lot, and before it used to be free, but now I'm sure they changed all the rules of the parking lot now. And this is the famous corner of Dundas and English. Big up the EOA crew, because the EOA crew, they all know me, east of Adelaide boys. I cut all of them guys and they respect me and they support me. So enough respect to the EOA crew all the time. This was our parking lot for my customers. I kept a grand opening and I invited the mayor, Anne-Marie DeSico. Big up Anne-Marie DeSico. She's such a real lady. She came and she parked her car right in this parking lot right here and walked around by herself. Everybody thought she was going to be coming with some big entourage. She came by herself. The lady's a soldier, yo. You should see how small she is. She's just a neat little woman, but she's a solid lady. You know what I mean? So this is the back unit. This used to be my apartment as well, too. I used to live here. It used to have a glass door on there, and it never used to have that awning. It used to just have a little simple steps to go to the unit upstairs because there was an apartment on top of my apartment. This used to be a window right here and then a regular door, like a home type of setting. This was my little patio. When my kids from Toronto come for the weekend, they would just come and stay over with me here, and we just chill out. And the nice, cool thing about it was that, you know, even the Jamaican lady who ran the business in here before me, I was told that, you know, she used to live in the unit behind, but a lot of people didn't know that it had a door that I could go from my bathroom right into my apartment. But it was like a double door, so it was like some real, like, Inspector Gadget thing, like, you know. A lot of people wouldn't know. I just had the double lock on the double door and shit, and lock up at nighttime and just go home without having to go around. But some days I'd still go around, because you don't know, you can't make people study you. You know, this is a little back alleyway. That was the side doors for the other commercial unit, the coffee shop. All right. So coming back around, this is my original address. As I said, I was here for 12 years, non-stop. That empty gap right here where you see the bicycle running, that was a bar right there called Town and Country Bar. And they used to have laundromat right beside it. So I used to do my laundry there, like my shop towels, as in, you know, and capes and stuff like that. So that would be good. It was efficient. We go over there for lunch and eat wings sometimes and stuff at the bar. You see this unit right beside me, I was told it used to be the Canada Trust Bank, you see. I went in there when I first moved to, and I seen they still had the vault in there and everything. TNC was right in there. Town and Country Bar, there was like a full big unit that they just destroyed. I was told that they're going to put a building there. And this end unit on the right, far right, was something that was newly made, you know. So the good thing about me moving here was like, yo, I moved here and I opened on Dundas, 760 Dundas, June 1st of 2000, right? And I signed a lease for 2 years, right? Successfully. Okay. Yeah, there was another barbershop beside me, Vince's barbershop, and there was a paralegal guy that I just walked past earlier. This was like a bicycle store in here, I remember, you know. So as I was saying, like, successfully did the lease for 2 years, you know, and then after, I noticed that there was a unit right up the road, right here, right where this opening was. There was a 2-story building, kind of similar to this one that I just passed. But this whole spot right here, especially where the sign is, that's where the building was. And the building extended all the way back, not as far as the truck, but all the way back. Yeah, all you need is love, for real. They did a nice little mural right there. But back to what I was saying was, there was a building right here, right beside Longo's. And I moved my shop from 760 Dundas to right there. Moved in, started the renovations and everything. And, you know, was getting ready to, you know, purchase the building. All the stuff, like my mom was going to help me. Of course, at that time, you know, within 2 years, I had a good clientele. Everything was running good. And then, you know, some little mishap came, and, you know, I could just say it was like the devil at play, you know, because there was a lot of jealousy. You know, I could say that for real. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people who I thought would have supported me, like, after they kind of flipped when they seen the attention that I was getting. You know, this was a 2-story commercial unit with like 1,000 square feet downstairs and a 2-bedroom loft upstairs with a deck. I was like getting ready to just set up my castle and just be kicking it like a king, you know. But, you know, like, I just keep the faith and just, you know, stay positive. So what ended up happening was, I just ended up just moving right back. So you could imagine, I had lost all my money that I moved to renovate this new spot. And then I ended up moving right back to 760 Dundas. But the good thing was that I left on good terms. I never left with any type of bill or anything like that. And honestly, it was like God. I swear, I remember telling even my customers, when I came back to Klein Realty, after the little mishap happened with me and I couldn't get to purchase this building anymore, when I came back to Klein Realty, the man gave me the key again back without even a deposit. You know, it's like he just knew, yo, I was the right person for the unit. He gave it to me, and then within 2 weeks, I literally made back the money to clear up back everything and, you know, back on track again. You know what I mean? Because I'm just kind of glad, like, the people who I grew around, man, straight up, you know what I mean? I've always been around, like, people who are inspiring and motivators, and I've always been around people who faced hardship. So when the hardship comes, you just kind of know if you just pray it off and laugh it off and just try to stay, focused, because at the end of the day, we can't make the devil take over. Seeing? So, another little mishap. This intersection right here, after I started back and I moved back now, I'm trying to get my plumbing done and everything. I'm all overwhelmed because I'm working by myself. It's hard to get good people to work for me because people are just, they don't want to protect the brand. So, whatever, I ended up getting into an accident here because I had so much stuff on my mind. I remember literally it's like I drove through a red light. I couldn't even be mad at the person who hit me. I drove through the red light because of all the pressure that was on me by myself, working by myself. You remember, because they say it's your own business, right? I'm literally, I'm like working until like 10, 11 o'clock and starting at 10 every day. You know what I mean? And I'm working by myself. But I just had to just stay positive same way and just say, yo, I have my family that's depending on me. So at the end of the day, I still have to keep my focus and stay positive and give thanks for the liquor and the much that I have. And that's what I did. You know what I mean? So give thanks. Yeah, so all that accident did was just add more expenses to me because my monthly payments were more because I had to be paying for the accident, plus taking care of all the shop expenses myself, plus taking care of all my personal expenses. You know what I mean? Even taking care of my children, which I made sure that I always did throughout all the years. You know what I mean? So I'm really proud of myself for that. And yeah, what else could I say about 760 Dundas? We've been there for 12 years though. It was a long journey and I learned a lot. I learned a lot of, ergonomics and stuff like that, learning how to work properly and effectively because, slouching over customers and stuff and you don't got nobody to remind you to, correct your posture. But then all you're doing is hurting yourself. So, I learned how to multitask. I learned how to do so much stuff at one time. As well, like I remember, I opened June 1st of 2000. God bless my friend who lent me her car to come and bring up my stuff and, set up everything. But what happened was when I borrowed her car one of the times, I got pulled over on the ramp at Wellington because at that time I didn't know that you could come to 760 Dundas from Highbury or even from Veterans. I only knew how to reach to 760 Dundas from Wellington. So I got pulled over there on the ramp, and I remember even the cop had sympathy for me. Yeah, man, give thanks and praises to the Almighty Creator because I remember when I got pulled over bringing up some supplies on the ramp at Wellington, the cop looked at me and said, "You're under suspension. You're by yourself. You have nobody to drive the car. I suggest that you don't move the car from here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drive off. So it's up to you." That's what the cop told me. I waited a little. Yeah, drove off. What else could I do? I didn't even know anybody in London. Drove off, took some other little route, reached, dropped off the stuff. Even on the way when I was going back, I was all fretting. Ended up finding a different route back to the highway. Made it back all the way back to Toronto safely and gave back my friend her car. Right? So because I got that ticket on the highway, and it wasn't even actually a ticket, it was a summons to go to court. And I got that ticket in May of 2000. I opened the shop June 1st. Everything was running good successfully. Paid my rent in June, July, August, everything successfully right up until December. And then in December, I seen in the mail my new address that I got, a court date for December of 2000 in London, Ontario courthouse. Yeah, so new guy in town. He just opened his business in June. It's December now. My first winter in London, Ontario. Everything's running smooth. I'm still getting customers. Everything's running good. Around the 20th was the date of the court date, and I remember it was on a Friday. So what I did was my regular schedule was to just go into the shop every morning, open up the shop, but that day